y'all. Oh, it is the first of the month, and as we always do, we got another great community conversation happening today. Man, this topic I feel like is really needed. And not only me personally, I had a lot of people in the community talk about like the Hood Talks podcast need to talk about relationships. And we've done some relationship conversations. We have, and make sure you check us out this month because we replaying some of those relationship conversations that we did do previously. So make sure you keep tapping into us. And if you ain't following or if you don't know about the Hood Talks podcast, you're going to learn today. Okay? You're going to learn today. But make sure you hit the follow button or the subscribe button on YouTube and stay tapped into us. But again, my name is Vanna, y'all. I'm the host of the Hood Talks podcast, and I'm super excited to be here. We're going to kick this conversation off real soon. But I first got to give a shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to BJC. Yes, BJC has sponsored this season of the Hood Talks podcast. We appreciate you. If you want to learn more about how you can support and sponsor the Hood Talks podcast, definitely take a look at our website. It's ent.thehoodtalks.com. Okay, I'll put that in the chat for you all as well. But again, shout out to BJC. Shout out to them for sponsoring us in this season so we can keep bringing these conversations and keep doing the work that we do in the community. So, your girl got to do what she got to do. And I got to kick this show off. I got to kick it off like I do every time. And we're going to get into this conversation. Okay? Hey, it's like always my favorite thing because yes, we talking, and we gonna keep talking, y'all. Man, I do want to acknowledge real quick before we get started, and you, as y'all see these beautiful faces on my screen, who's joining me today. Ebony, shout out. Oh, let me say handsome. I'm sorry, sir. I take that back. Handsome and beautiful face I see on my screen today. I do want to give a shout out. Recognize Ebony, who was supposed to be on the show today with us. Unfortunately, she lost her son last night. So I am sending out condolences to her and her family, sending prayers. Please, y'all, send some positive energy and vibes her way. Definitely uplifting her in prayers and thoughts. So, I had to acknowledge that and really give her a shout out. Unfortunately, y'all, there's so much we could talk about on that topic, but unfortunately that's another topic for another day because we definitely need it here in our community, right? But today we talking the relationship between the Black man and Black woman, specifically the Black man and Black woman. Okay, I cannot wait to dive into these conversations with these great guests, but I am going to let them introduce themselves first. Come on, Miss Sharice. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Cherise. I'm a wife and mother. That's number one first. I'm a Christian. Number two, shout out. I'm going to put it out there. Number three, how I make a living is I am a certified doula by trade. I do work for Chestnut Health as a doula specialist supporting women and postpartum women and pregnant women with substance use disorders. Everybody needs a doula. I also have my own doula business, Black Butterfly Doula Community LLC, because I am in the community, support my community. And number two, I have a vegan baking business called Drinking Vegan Treats. You can find me on Facebook. I do a little bit of everything in that. So check me out.
Yes, and if I must say, them cakes is great. Okay. Them cakes are great. And shout out to my doula sis. Yes, everybody needs a doula. Okay. Shout out to the doulas out here doing the work. So thank
Yes.
you for joining me today. I appreciate it. Uh Mr. Don, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Don Looney. I am a husband and a father. I like to say I'm retired from parent. My youngest son just graduated high school and he's a college student now. So I'm exploring a whole different realm of parenthood. Um, I'm an activist, a unionist. Do a lot of work with the St. Charles County Democrats. I'm the chair there. However, that's not my hat today. Like I'm not here to talk politics today. Right? We're talking about black men and black women. Um, let's see, a bunch of other stuff that I could go on, but I don't want to take all the time. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And oh, that political hat. I'm gonna have to yeah, I'm gonna have to
Tap in.
yeah. We have to have some more conversations, okay? So yes, I appreciate you for being here, and shout out to everybody that's tapping in. Definitely say hey and what's up in the comments. Shout out to Kevin. I see you. What's going on, bro? Make sure y'all share this because again, this conversation, y'all, is needed, and I think it's gonna be great. I know it's gonna be great. I don't think I know. So I just want to get into this real fast and getting started by talking about when we say the relationship again with black men and black women. What do you see it and how do you see it today? Like, how is it today, right now? The black men and black women
I'll let you
relationship.
go first, Sharice.
As I see it, as I am currently living, and also Don and you yourself, it's very fragmented. It's from an inner place, in our community, and we all know where it comes from. We all know where it stems from, but we don't want to have the hard conversations, and we don't want to have them in public, especially about the things that we deal with as Black people. And so, with all of those things, it's just hard to say where specifically because it's so broad. It's so broad. It's so many little, little many nooks and crannies that we have to deal with in order to even bring a full conversation forth on what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll add to that by saying, hello, by the way, in the comments. I'll add to that by saying, it is. I think that we're in a place now to where we can actually finally start having this kind of dialogue because there are so many couples, there are so many relationships that are making it past the you know 7 year itch when it comes to marriage, right?
Mm.
Or we're getting to a place to where you know black men are being raised by their fathers in the home with their mother, right? Co-parenting situations are getting better. So the entire black family dynamic is evolving and before us, and we're seeing it in a way that we haven't seen it historically or typically. Like we're just not used to seeing that. A lot of people are often surprised when I tell them that I am married and how long I've been married and that all of my children are with my wife. Like a lot of them just aren't used to hearing those kind of things, right?
Because
So
it's not, those things are not glorified in our community, in
Yeah.
our
right,
Yeah.
what we call culture.
right,
This
right,
new
right.
culture that
Girl,
we
don't get started with culture.
yeah, this new culture that we have, unfortunately, it's not glamorified to have a partner, one partner relationship, and then having, like you said, a father in the home, and uh, children with one person. Like it's not seen as a normal thing
Right,
anymore.
right.
Um, and how long have you, if you don't mind telling us, how long
Oh,
have you been married?
I don't mind. I've been married 24 years.
Okay, okay,
Congratulations. Congratulations. In October, we will be married for 30 years.
okay.
And we are also empty nesters with a grandbaby. And it's been a ride. It's been a ride. And we're not a typical 30-year marriage family. I came in with a child. My husband came in with a child. We created one together and also raised my niece because my sister unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose.
I'm
So
sorry.
we are a mixed family, but nobody who knows us outside of the personal people in our circles know that we're not a family because we never used step as a term. We never used people that knew me in high school will run up on me and be like, oh, I think your family, I don't remember this and I don't remember that. And I'm like, well, good for you because we don't remember it either. We
Right,
move as a unit. We
right.
move as a unit.
You know,
Moving as a that I'm glad you said that. That's why the topic, right? Unity and love, because
Yeah.
it
yeah,
has to be a joint effort, right?
right.
I think a lot of times, and this is now my next question in a sense. A lot of times I hear either the black woman gonna save us, or it's up to the black man, and it's like I don't think so personally. I think it's a dynamic of us both. We both have a part to play. And so I want to ask you all, what do you think about that perspective? Is it an either or is it how do we make the unity if that's the answer?
Well, you can't really save anybody until you're in position to save yourself.
Mm.
Like, I think that there are so many things, those things that we don't want to talk about, right? Like, first of all, let's just get this out here on the table so we can have this as a starting point, right? But I
Come on.
think a lot of us fail to recognize or acknowledge how the relationship between the black man and the black woman was affected by slavery,
Come on.
by Jim Crow, by segregation, the war on drugs, and all of these things, right? So, all of that is there. But each of those, like the black woman and the black man, have to get to a place to where we are solid and whole, within ourselves, right?
Mm.
And then get our
Yes.
family structures together. And then maybe, we can link together as a community and we can save ourselves. But it all starts with us
It
internally.
all starts with us and it all starts in the home. And sometimes people have the concept that uniformity is sameness. It's not sameness.
Right.
It's different perspectives coming together to unite by choice. And like you said, in slavery, we couldn't unite by choice. We couldn't be married. We couldn't have a ceremony. We didn't have any rights to our offspring. They were property, they were
Right.
chattel.
Right.
And so, with all of those things, and then the laws being put on the books that, if you had a dad in the house, if you had a man in the house, and you all were
Yeah.
low income, he
Talking
couldn't
about
be there to be
7 cents.
supported
Yep.
in
Right.
social
Yep.
services and all of those other things. And we grew up with that in the 70s, and we took that mentality and we just ran with it.
Mm.
We ran with it instead of going back to see where those things came from.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And and we just pushed the agenda that was put up on us basically.
Absolutely.
Mm.
To piggyback on that, Sharice, I, I'm 45, right? And so a lot of young men in my age group, they call us Gen X, right? A lot of
Mm.
us grew up in single parent homes and we
Mm.
watched our mothers raise house full of kids by themselves, right?
Mm.
Yes.
Do it on their own. So that idea that our women didn't need us was almost given to us
Mm.
inadvertently in
Ooh.
our upbringing. So, a lot of black men may not have felt guilt, shame, or anything when they left the home and left their
Mm.
mom by herself because the mentality was there. Well, my mama did it, so why can't
So
you
why
do
can't you?
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
it?
And
So
on the side of that, yeah, and on the side of that with women, because I was raised in a single family home and my husband was too. And with women, not saying it verbally, you don't need a
But
man
they
to
action.
help support, but just the way they carried themselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
I never had the conversation
Yeah.
with my mom about don't depend on anybody, not let alone talk about a man, anybody,
Yeah.
do it yourself. And it is a subconscious thing that you use and you move forward with that. And in the first, to be honest, in the first few years of my marriage, it was exactly that. It
Mm.
was exactly that. I had to learn how to feel comfortable with someone who has chosen to share their life. I had to relinquish the reins,
Mm.
to so to speak. And it was not comfortable for me because I had been raised, and shown the example of, okay,
I
you
don't
can
need
be
no
in a
man for you
relationship,
too
but
strong. Yeah.
right, don't
Yeah.
don't don't be needy. Don't be
Don't be.
needy.
Yeah. I think that's a perfectly because sometimes I used to think that too. Like I feel like men always want us to be needing them. I don't need you. And that's just being honest. Like
Yeah.
I don't need you, bro. I want you. It's a difference. But I think, but that goes with the dynamic of what a black man is, and how sometimes, and I'm going through that with my therapist now, talking about the dynamics.
Mm.
Because it goes back to what you said. I had to find self and figure out
Yeah.
what I really want through trauma. Because I've had a lot of trauma. So through trauma, I'm addressing that trauma, but in those traumas, you start looking at life differently. And it's like, okay, now what do I want and what do I
Mm.
and what have I been, instilled in me that's not good that I need to change? And that is one of the things that I don't need you as the man. I could do it on my own, but my thing is, no, even if I don't need you, the kids need you, the home needs you. And I definitely need you too, because why should I want to do it alone? I shouldn't want it to do it alone. If you're here, you know what I mean? And you're doing what you're supposed to do. But I think we've been taught that we can't depend on men, not only thinking about like the dynamics of mothers having to take control of the house, but also some of our men have not been stepping up as what they need to step up. And I know that's trauma within Black men who, we talk about, I'm not your mama. I don't want to take care of you. I don't want to take,
Right.
you know what I mean, Don? Like, I ain't just sitting here wanting to wash your clothes and take care of you, feed you all day, and you sitting here and not pushing no forward of effort to anything. I think that's where a lot of women are thinking too, like in the sense of I don't need no man because you either dragging me down or you ain't helping and it's hindering. You
Right.
get my
Right.
drift?
Well, so that plays into, first of all, I feel like I'm a child of misogyny, right? I was raised in this patriarchal society
Mm.
that really wasn't designed for Black families. First of all, let's start there.
Period. Yes.
And so, as a man, when you're growing and you're coming into what we call manhood, right? The only examples of what manhood, according to this society, you see are not the people that you are near, right? We don't
Mm.
have that mirror or that reflection to look at. So we're trying to create this image to fit in this box that this society that we're raised in has put together for us, right? And that really doesn't fit the Black family dynamic. You know, a lot of
No.
Black are not afraid to have, in a lot of Black families, the matriarch may be the head of the family, right? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
grandma, big mama, Gigi, whatever you call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we all know grandpa, pop, whoever he is there, right? But he may not be driving the ship or, the top advisor
Mm.
or the one doling out the sage wisdom all the time. That may be mom. While our society tells us that as a man, this is the role that you're supposed to play in your house, right? So that
Mm.
in and of itself will create some conflict in the man woman dynamic when it comes to our people, right?
As you
Um,
said that, but with that, Don, you're saying that Pop was there, but he wasn't the voice. But who's to say just because Pop wasn't there and he wasn't the voice that he was not the leader of the family? And that's some of the things that we look at and we draw roles
mhm.
Yeah.
around our
Yeah.
expectation of what a family should be based
Yeah,
on who?
based
Because a
right,
lot of those men were there and they were the leaders and they had private conversations with mama in the back. And
right,
mama was just the voice piece. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we look at that and think that that was something that was not sage wisdom.
That
They
was
right.
still were moving as a team.
unity.
We just didn't
Mm.
get the conversation in our face. And we have
Woo.
perceptions of things that weren't discussed. And most of the time, the bottom line, we should have been discussing that. We should have been teaching that. We
That's
should have been modeling that
that
instead
part.
of having it in secret. And then we get these children that think that, or we develop these children that we have and think that was the way it was because we didn't want to be honest and open.
Right,
Mm.
right. And then I'll
Mm.
share a vulnerable moment for myself now. I've in the last few years, I've come to realize that a lot of the decisions I've made and a lot of the ways that I try to uh, come together with my wife and structure our family were
Mm-hmm.
based on me reacting to childhood traumas or things
Mm.
that were missing in my childhood, right? Like I can admit openly now that I was such a devoted father because I felt like I didn't get everything I needed from my father. You know,
Mm.
I tried in some ways. I try to overcompensate while raising my kids because I felt like there were things that I may have missed from my mother, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
So I would try to play that out as I'm raising my own family. And again, these are things that if I had known then, when we first got together, these are conversations that we would have.
Yeah.
What do you see our family structure looking at? How do you want to handle this? How do we handle discipline? Instead of, I tell all my friends, like, as a dad, I just made up rules as I went.
Come
So like
on.
on today, this is the rule in the house today. While my wife, she would be more consistent, with
Mm-hmm.
that, uh, just rules, regulations, things that she would get upset about, or areas where the discipline. While me as a dad, I always had the liberty of just making it up as I went along. Oh, the trash didn't go out today. Okay, that's punishment. Trash don't go out tomorrow. Oh, we understand. Just kind of make it go. And speaking of the dynamic between the man and the woman, these are things that cause strife between us, because a lot of us
Absolutely.
never had those examples of how
Mm.
to actually come together in unity to raise a family. And not just in a family, but you have people who are in that stage before they even get to having kids, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the delegation of duties in a house or a living situation could be all over the place, because those conversations
Mm-hmm.
just aren't being
Mm-hmm.
have those conversations. We just walk in assuming that, that's your role, that's what you're gonna do. This is my role, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm gonna do. And if you're not meeting what I think are my qualifications or expectations, as you said earlier, Sharice, then you're not the one for me. When I never
Yeah.
And
let you know,
expectations unspoken. Yeah,
yeah,
unspoken
Unspoken
expectations. And
expectations.
it's amazing to me that as couples building a family, whether you're just in partnership now or ever go to marriage, that we will go head force and head first in sexual intimacy, but will
Yeah.
not have emotional intimacy conversations to
yeah,
understand what it is. How are we going to raise the children? What do we do with finances? How do we work through? We have none of that, but we will create more family and have not even found a foundation in which the two people to start the family should be built upon.
Okay,
Period.
now y'all, let me come on now. I'm gonna ask this because I heard everything you all are saying.
uh-huh,
And again, my lens is to a community that's not so tapped in, right? Um,
Mm,
a community that we're trying to get to understand this dynamic, because we got what you just said, not trauma,
mm,
experiences, childhood experiences mold you to who you are today,
right,
or has some type of aspect. If you haven't addressed the things that you went through, it's showing up. We know that it's going to show up.
yeah,
And so I want to say, like, for some folks who don't understand or don't have the ability to do what you just said, be vulnerable and have those topics and those conversations, because sometimes they're not raised in those systems. We got to go
mm,
back to, especially I'm 30. Ooh, Lord, I just turned 34. I had to think about that. I just turned 34. And so in my dynamic of what a relationship looks like, and my grandfather, if I look at my grandmother, my grandfather is exactly what you said. My grandma was, she talked, she spoke up, she said everything. Big mama she was the life of the party, okay? But my granddaddy was quiet. He never said anything. And it would look like my grandma ran the house. And he might say
mm,
one time, like, all right, Bertha ring. And that means, like, okay, grandpa, like, chill out. But
right,
he didn't
right,
say
right,
much. And they didn't talk. They didn't have really conversations. They slept in separate bedrooms. And so
mhm,
then I get to the dynamic of my childhood, trauma, and then getting to see, I really didn't see for real positive, healthy relationship. So if someone don't know, they haven't observed or haven't seen, or they didn't have anyone pouring into them like what we're talking about here, where do they get it from? How do they just magically be like, okay, this is what the dynamics, this is what it should be? Because I don't know. I have not seen this. I have not heard or been exposed to any of this. And a lot of us have not. We have
right,
not,
we
unless we
do.
seek it out.
Well, Vanna, we do know what hurt us. We are the only people that know what has hurt us and what has shaped us.
Mm.
And so when you come to self-discovery and when you do introspection, you need to be free enough to say the words out loud and to seek counsel and to seek therapy and to seek these things. Because you can go on and you can live with trauma. And that's most of the things we've learned how to do with as Black people, live with trauma, and we think we're making it by. But it shows up in every aspect, and you think you can outwork it, and you think you can out exercise it, and you can think you can run it, but it's there. But if you don't say within yourself, I see this as a blockage for me. and I need to go seek help, it's nothing the community is going to be able to support you
It's
in.
nothing that the community can do. It's
Right.
self. It's self.
Right.
So it starts with self. It
Absolutely.
starts
Absolutely.
with
You
self.
know, the hardest thing to do is have those kinds of conversations with yourself, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of us aren't we aren't raised with the liberty or the freedom to express a lot of that, right?
Hmm.
And then with that comes our aversion to accountability, right? Because we
Mm.
know
Mm. Yes, yes.
we
That word. That
for
word.
for everything, right? That whenever someone mentions something, we always automatically come up with a justification or a reason why, right? And just to admit that, you know what, I'm out of line or out of order in this part almost sounds like you're failing. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds
Mm-hmm.
like a failure. It doesn't sound like an opportunity to improve or better yourself, but it sounds like a failure. And a lot of us just don't want to deal with that. And again, we haven't been given the liberty to even try to be vulnerable because we're always in survival mode. Like we're in a mode where
Mm.
we have to
Right.
survive. We don't really get to live or thrive. You know, we trying to
Mm-hmm.
survive.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm saying. We got a lot of our people, y'all, and we got to really acknowledge that. We have a lot of folks in survival mode. And
Absolutely.
even the access to the resources to even try. Yes, there's a lot of information on social media. Again, shout out to the Hood Talks podcast, right? And having these conversations. But at the end of the day, you know, somebody probably working an 8-hour shift right now. They got a family they got to come home to. So tapping into a YouTube channel, which I'm just saying, tapping into some of these books and some of these things just ain't on that person's mind when they trying to figure out how I'm gonna put food on the table tomorrow, how I'm going to get these kids to school, or maybe like my bills is due, my life's gonna get cut. So I'm just like, we have, and I
Yeah. And
want to
after you get
acknowledge
done
that a
with
lot of families are dealing with that. So not even just
Yeah.
single parents, a lot of families are dealing with those struggles.
absolutely, and when you get through all of that, right, and all the other ails that we talk about in our society, a lot of us just can't wait to get to the weekend so we can have a good time.
So we can
Teach,
turn
We just
up,
want
you
to
know.
roll.
teach on that. Teach on that because it's got to be a each one reach one. No, it's not up to the community as a whole. We know the people in our household. We know the people that we're associated with, the close people that, oh, I don't want to speak about that because that may change the, trajectory of our relationship. Oh, I don't want to be responsible, for anything. And that's just the thing. You see a need, but you don't want to speak to a need because it's the fear. It's the
Yeah,
fear that stops us from
Mm.
speaking to the needs of those that's closest to us. Yes, community resources out there, and you know it is. But are you giving your significant other the resources? Or are you showing up in the relationship in a way that they can be vulnerable before you and they
But
can
it goes
see that
back.
you're
I think it
actually
goes.
there?
Sure, but I think it goes back to what he said too with self and accountability. Because
Absolutely.
even if I'm showing up that way, even if I'm showing up, if you're not willing to be able to pour that out, I
Hmm.
can't help you. I
Right.
can't. I can't. And this is any.
Right.
I think this is beyond just a relationship as a significant other. I'm thinking about
Friendship,
parenthood.
everything.
I'm talking about siblings. I'm talking about cousins. Like you said, friend. Any like if I can
Everybody.
show up and say I'm here to support you, but and then this is my thing too. I am not going to take on we talked about this a little earlier with
We
our
did.
energies and traumas, right? Like I
Yeah.
can't take on your trauma for you and you're not wanting to address it, right? You don't want to stop. I can't, and I
Mhm.
don't want to keep putting myself in trauma filled situations because you don't want to get healthy or you don't want to get help. So then that's when people are draining themselves, right? And
Yes.
that's in relationships, right? It's like we tell people a healthy relationship is what you should be striving for in any type of form. And some folks ain't giving that. So what?
But some of us form trauma bonds
Mm,
in
yes,
relationships,
those are
and we
strong.
make the other person responsible because we're both coming in with baggage. And
hmm
we want to make the other person responsible for our trauma and vice versa. But nobody wants to do. I was talking to Vanna earlier about being on a self introspection journey. I am literally sitting in the middle of that. And I had been looking at some things and I had ran across this book. And the title is, What is it like to be married to me?
Mm.
The title alone, when I saw it, my body immediately rejected it because I was on Amazon, immediately rejected it. But then my spirit rose up and said, you push that, get that book because you need this book right now. And I got the book and I started going through it. And it's a faith-based book, but it's very applicable to, people who don't have a faith preference. And it's basically talking about if you want something, you got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
Your work
do the work.
is your work. And they talked about the difference between a goal and then a desire. A goal is something that you accomplish on your own. You don't need anybody's help. You're going to do the work and get it. And a desire is something that you have to partner with somebody else in. They have to do their part. You have to do your part. And then she gave the example of, say for instance, whatever partner in the marriage is like living with diabetes and overweight. And, you want them as the other partner to get healthy. That's your desire. So in your desire of wanting something for them, you decide, oh, I'm going to do all the meal planning. I'm going to do all the cooking. I'm going to basically micromanage my partner to get something I want. And then when micromanaging my partner does not work, then you're just in a whole nother trauma field because you're trying to make somebody do something that you're desiring. If your goal is for somebody to be healthy, then you make sure that you are modeling in front of them what you want, and you're doing it in love. You're doing it in love because love covers a multitude of sins. But if you're doing it as a desire and not as a goal to actually partner and come together, then don't do it. And that did something for me because I am definitely that person. I feel like I can cheerlead everybody and everything. But what kind of cheering am I doing? Is it a motivation or is it just something for me?
So how do you feel about that, Don? What do you think about it?
I love it. I love it. The only thing I would add to that is that, like, when you're dealing with someone, whatever ailment is, right? You mentioned diabetes, but whatever situation is, let's say you with a person who is forgetful, right? I mean, they would lose their head if it wasn't attached to them, right? With love comes a certain level of acceptance, right? When you get to know your partner, right, you just have to accept them where they are. And if you love them properly, right? If the relationship is a healthy relationship, it's going to inspire stuff, right? They're going to get to a place to where they just want to do better because, one, they're going to have to keep up with you, right? Or you're going to leave them behind. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to have to keep up with you. So they're going to want to do better. But that comes with a lot of acceptance. And speaking on behalf of Black men all over the place, right?
Come on.
You ready for that? You ready for that?
What kind of hurts us in relationships with Black women is that we usually get that kind of acceptance from three people in our lives, right? That's auntie, grandma, and that's mama. They'll take us as we are, no matter how we look, no matter what we're doing. We can count on one of those three somewhere in every Black man's life. One of them women that showed up and loved them in a way that is incomparable to anybody, right? And it's really hard for us to find that acceptance in not just romantic relationships, right? But a lot of with our sisters, cousins, co-workers, family, right? That acceptance is missing. You know what I'm saying? If you can accept me where I am now, just love me. I'll get to where I need to go. I might get to where you want me to be.
And you
but you gotta love me where I am now.
I hear that, and I just want to. I'm in my mind. I'm thinking because what you just said. Because when I have conversations with other women, I sometimes hear a lot of that grandma and mama and aunties, they spoiled Black men because now the expectations is of what grandma and they didn't push. I'm trying to say this in a way that I don't feel like I'm hurting anybody's feelings, but I feel like they pushed y'all to be very much dependent on them and women. And so women are like, we're tired of having to hold up that leverage of how we have to. Go ahead.
Y'all don't have to hold anything up. All you have to
That's
do is
it.
space. All you have
Say
to
it
That's
do is
again.
it.
take space.
Say it
You know.
again. You
Oh,
said we
you
don't
don't
have
have
to
to.
hold anything up.
No, you just have to be a safe space.
Be a
Hold space. Hold space. And it's
Yeah.
difficult to hold space because hold space means you have to take yourself completely out of it. And you have to let the other person have whatever experience they need to have.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to come in, and we don't like to sit with the uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. I don't
Okay.
want to sit with the uncomfortable because sitting with your uncomfortable makes me uncomfortable. We
Mm.
have to be compassionate enough and empathetic enough and loving enough to sit in a space and hold space for each other. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line issue, I think, in this community. We have no empathy for each other
I
because
agree with that
my
one.
trauma outchecks your trauma. Well, if you
Yes,
have been through this,
I'm struggling
like
harder
I
than you
have,
struggling. You ain't never struggled like this. Like
come
what?
on.
Who wants to?
And
I don't
we
want
don't create an atmosphere where we can be honest with one another
to.
and just say, you know what? I'm sorry that happened to
That
you.
happened to you.
I am so sorry
I
for
acknowledge and I
every
see
if
you.
they never come back and apologize. I'm gonna apologize on their behalf.
Yeah.
Whew,
You
I
know,
see you.
we don't do
And I
that.
just see you. I think that is we not seeing, are we not just seeing each other? I think it is right now. We have a lot of shouting at each other about who ain't supporting, who ain't taking care of it. You know, it's like a shout
Mm,
out. Well, y'all ain't doing this, and y'all ain't doing that, and y'all ain't doing this, and it's like, okay, all right. But what can we do? And that's where I want to get to now, right? We talked about all of the things that we've had, what's going on, the problems, and all of that. But what can we do now? And not just on again the marriage or the relationship as like a significant other. Like, what can our community do, black men and black women, to help us like literally move us together, to unite, to in unity? What can we do? Is it possible?
it is absolutely possible for a 24-year marriage and for a 30-year marriage that's being represented on this podcast.
What
We
I'm saying,
can
even
move forward.
outside of marriage, like even if you
We
go
can.
outside today and you come across a black man and he ain't even nothing about you sexually, nothing about, because that's another thing. Sometimes I think too, women, you know, we feel like men over sexualize us, and if we even say nice things or we being nice, it's all, well, how can I get you to the room? So it's like, how can we get beyond over? How can we
Well,
get
see
beyond that and just be like, I want to just support you because you're a black brother or you a black sister. I want to support you, and that's nothing
well,
else,
see,
nothing
it's
more.
that I don't know if we can come up with a definite answer for that because
Mm,
that's another one of those things that's so deeply ingrained in our
Mm,
community. At an early age. You know,
mm,
I get annoyed when I hear women talk about young black boys and say, "Oh, he's gonna be a lady killer when he grow up," you know,
mm.
or
come.
they,
Oh, that's a
oh,
hot yes.
oh,
Mm,
you gonna have problems with this one. She's so you know
come
like
on.
and they're starting. These are 3, 4, 5 year olds, right?
Kids,
And we
yeah,
already build. We already planting these seeds in the mind of
in
those
our heads,
parents, right?
yeah.
It's
Mm.
so rampant in our society. It's really out of control. So I don't know if I don't know how we get past that.
You just said it. You just said it, Don. We need to change the language. We need to change the language. That's what we can
Mhm.
do. If I see a
And
brother
the
that's
outlook.
on the side, that's on the side of the road, open up your mouth and speak. Hey, how you doing? And keep it moving.
Yeah.
That shows kindness. When you're in the public eye and you're just doing things you regularly do because they're in your heart and your mind and spirit to do, that shows kindness.
Mhm.
Because we don't know how to be kind to one another. Because, like you said, Vanna, everybody thinks it's an ulterior motive
It's the tip. Yes.
to
Come
be
on.
kind. So kindness covers a lot of things. Be respectful. You
Mm.
may not like another person's opinion, but you can respect it, and you don't have to offer any opinion. You can respect it and move on. As my mom used to say, we're just going to agree to disagree, and
That
we're
part.
going to move
And
forward
we got
without holding that,
exactly.
without making it seem like you're totally against me because we just disagree.
One
You
disagreement.
know, that's some simple things that can happen. That stuff builds, those foundations build up on or build to trust.
Mm,
Yeah, I seen Vanna so and so, so and so, and Vanna said A, B, and C, and she came back and did exactly what she said she was going to do. That
mm,
Yeah,
builds trust. You let
yeah,
your yay be yay and your nay. Don't lie. Don't try to fluff it up. You
mm,
know, don't accept things or agree to things that you know that you're not going to do or you don't want to be responsible for. Take the yes out. It's good to say no, no, because your no
healthy.
signifies that you have come to a conclusion about yourself and you set yourself up for to be respected.
Mm,
But it the fluff has to leave. You know, we all got stuff. I will never sit up in front of my children, even in times where I would not be, you know, happy. And I'm not even talking about a marriage. My dad was an alcoholic in the
mm,
home, my actual birth father. And I cannot remember one time that my mother talked about him in my presence.
mm.
She still made me, that is your father. I had to get older and on my own and see things for myself and have those conversations with him or those missed promises. And then I was able to make my own determination. She
Mm.
did not levy her bad relationship with him onto me.
And so I hear in this space that we have to watch what we say,
mhm,
Mm,
and stand on what we want to do. I hear you saying like no, it's healthy. I agree. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. So stand, and that goes back to knowing self and being okay with what your self decisions are, right? Um, and just being open. Because I'm open, just being open to receive, which I'm working. Because again, y'all, I come from a place of trauma, and when you, I'm real about.
mm,
I
Well,
come
no,
from a place of trauma, so I'm protective of myself because nobody else was
yeah,
protecting me. So
well,
I'm
well,
protective of
mm,
trauma is our
myself. So
trauma is a big part of our culture.
it
You know,
is.
it
We gotta
is.
acknowledge
hey,
that.
oh,
If we don't acknowledge that, we ain't gonna
yeah,
never solve no problems. We're not gonna get over what we're dealing with. We have to acknowledge we are full of trauma in our community. And if we don't
Mm,
acknowledge that and try to work forward, then we're not going to move. And that's what's been happening. Everybody, like you said, is covering up. It's a secret. Oh, well,
mhm,
that's happening. We don't need people to know that that's happening. Shh, be quiet about it. Why y'all talking about that?
mm.
No, let's acknowledge this sore so we can fix it. We can take care of it and get it better and heal it. So now
And
we
stop
can move.
passing it on and stop passing it on to the general. I wrote down the definition of a trauma bond because
I'm sorry.
that
And
really
we Don, we
speaks to
done took
me.
over this conversation in
Oh
space. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Don. Wait a minute,
no,
Sharice. Let
I'm here.
Don finish his comment. I'm sorry.
No,
Because
no,
that just
no, no, I'm here.
I feel
I'm
that no,
here.
I just feel that trauma part real big, and I just feel like we have to address that. Yes, I want to see us move forward, but I just think that is, like you said, a big part in our community that we are not
Absolutely.
acknowledging.
Mm.
And so I just really wanted to like highlight that. And so, what you was gonna say? I'm sorry. Go
Well,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, but it's the thing that we don't know how to even acknowledge, right?
Mm,
And it's become some of these things that we deal with, all of us deal with, are so normal. You know, in the church, you know, we talk about generational curses and things of that nature, right? So something that you know, something that one person dealt with, maybe the mama dealt with it, maybe grandma dealt with it. You know what I'm saying? Some of these things go back generations, and it's so normalized in our community that
yes.
these things happen that we don't know how to live another way. You know,
Mm,
that's like trying.
Mm,
You wait. You want me to get rid of my shoes? I love these shoes, and those ain't
mm,
J's. You know what I'm saying? I only like J's. You don't get me to take off my J's. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so many things that we've grown so accustomed to just dealing with and living with, because as we said earlier, we're in survival mode that we don't even know
yep.
how to acknowledge that as a trauma. You know, we just
Ooh,
accept it as a part of life.
it's
You
real.
know,
It's just normal.
it's very hard for me to find one of my peers that I grew up with, or even guys in my age group who didn't lose one of their friends, you know, somebody they considered a friend in their teenage years or in their early 20s. You know what I'm saying? We all
yeah.
got a dead homie somewhere, right? But these
Yeah.
are things that we all just accepted as a part of our life, right? And we, you know, and therapy has such a negative
It
stigma
does.
connotation in our community,
It does.
Yes.
mostly because there are not a lot of us who are available
Come
for
on.
therapy, right?
Come on.
But you know, a lot of us just don't seek that kind of help. and we haven't gotten it in the places that we think we would get it,
Say
and not to knock the church, but
that part.
washed away with the blood. You know what I'm saying? Some of this stuff we got to
Mm.
work it out. I mean, we got to acknowledge what it is before we can turn it over to the Lord so He can work it out, right? And if we
Right.
know how to call a thing, we
Yes.
can get to that place.
Going back on church, the church that I attend, we have licensed therapists that's on staff
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
for our
Okay.
church members,
Yeah.
Okay.
because we do understand that we were raised in trauma, and some of us are still with, and some of it is not even considered trauma because we don't even know what the definition of
Right.
trauma is.
Exactly.
How can you classify a thing
Ex-
when you don't even know what the definition of it is?
Because if
So
you, I mean,
yeah,
day to day, right now, being exposed to what we were just exposed to, that's in Michigan. That's trauma.
it is.
That's trauma. And so I be telling black people like I ain't, even if you didn't have a household, if you had a healthy household outside of your household, is trauma. If you live in an area where you hear gunshots every night and you don't feel safe going outside, that's trauma. That is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You're
But
traumatized.
even if we don't call it trauma, if you have a trigger, that's trauma. Let's call it what it is. If something triggers you to the point where it overtakes your thoughts,
Yes.
raises your blood pressure, speeds up, it's trauma.
Trauma.
And
Yes.
we don't want to see triggers as traumas. It
It
is. And it
is.
may be different from somebody else's. But, like my pastor said one time, just because you got a gunshot wound don't mean this paper cut don't hurt the same. You can't
Mm.
tell me how to classify and quantify my trauma just because yours is different from mine. We all have it. And so just the fact of understanding that we all have some can bring us to the common denominator to stop judging one another, because
Right.
everybody got some.
Right.
Yes.
And
Everybody got some. I talk to the women that I work with, and most of them, 100% of the women that I work with have substance use disorders because, period.
Man, come. I heard you was trying to get in there, Don. Come on.
well, I was just gonna say that we in this world that we live in, like it's not black people, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
black men don't even have the liberty to express that they are triggered or
Yeah.
feel any of that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like something bothering me today, a lot of us have it ingrained in our minds. And this is something that I'm trying to work through myself right now. That
Yes.
people don't want to hear about my bad day. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
wife, the kid, they don't want to hear about my bad day.
Mm.
So why am I talking? So you just bottle that stuff in because we
Mm.
got to get through the next day because we got to provide, we have to
Mm.
nurture, right? We have to raise, like there's so many things so many roles that we have to play. We got to show up on this job and deal with all of that, all of that comes with whatever you do in your line of work, right? And we have to continue to show up and deliver. So we don't really even have the liberty or the freedom to have an off day or a bad day, or even recognize that, we're experiencing something that sounds like this trauma word that we've been throwing around here that we're saying people may not know, because all of this stuff is just normal, and
But we do want to hear, and
Yes,
that's what
we
we're talking about, these roles. We're talking about these roles
do.
that we set up in our own mind, but never verbalize. We do want to hear,
I
because whether
swear.
it's verbalized or not, it's showing up in the space.
I
yes,
swear. I
It's
be
showing
like,
up anyway.
I
And so
agree.
let's put a definition to what it is. Let's talk about it, because if it's affecting you, and we're in a partnership in any kind of way, business relationship, community, if it's affecting you, it's affecting me, it's affecting us.
But I think
So
it goes, and I'm gonna say this from my point of view, which I'm learning to check because I'm a problem solver. And my first mind is like, oh, I'm gonna fix it. Like, how can I fix it? And that's just being honest. So I think that's where it goes to Don. Like, if you're saying I need to express this, but if I'm trying to fix it for you and it don't really need to be fixed, I'm turning you off because you ready to solve the problem and I just want to release it. So I'm learning to be like, Savannah, that ain't what you got to do, okay?
and
He
if I
ain't
could get in
fix
real
it.
quick, that kind of
Go ahead.
creates dynamic that leaves a lot of black women feeling like we want to be mothered, right? Because
Mm.
we're expressing something that's wrong, and now you're coming in trying to tell us how to fix it,
Mm.
and maybe even demanding that we go with your solution. You know,
Mm.
it could be a problem that we've already figured out. We just need to vent, get it off our
We
chest,
need to
right?
just get it
But
off.
you want to tell us the answer. Sometimes you just need to listen. You know,
And you know
sometimes,
what? I've said that to my husband, and I've understood that I have to say the words.
yeah,
I just need to vent. I don't
yeah,
want you to fix it. That gets him in the mindset
yeah,
to receive it and to
Oh,
just to be open and hold that space. But you gotta say the words. You
yeah.
can't make anybody responsible
No,
for feeling any type of way if you don't open your mouth and say what you need.
you're
I had to
absolutely right.
learn that because
Absolutely.
my husband is a fixer as well, and I would be offered solutions that I necessarily didn't want. And he had to have a conversation with me. You need to tell me what we're doing. Is
mm.
this a vent? You know what I'm saying? Is this a
Like, do
vent?
you want me to solve this? Do you need help? Or you
Right.
just saying
But
what you
that's honest. That's
it
honest.
is?
Yeah,
Because
Is
like
this a
you
vent?
said, it
Or,
gives you
are we looking for a solution?
mm,
And at first, that like threw me off. But then when
that
I
makes
got into the meat of what it is, and I did not get what I didn't want on the end, it made me feel comfortable. It made me feel heard. But I had to open my mouth
yeah.
and say what I needed. We don't go by osmosis. We don't.
mm.
No, no.
So
We
But
gotta
these, but we
communication is what I'm hearing. Communicate.
absolutely.
Come on,
But
Don.
but see, that's a huge opportunity for us to make some changes, right? Because we haven't been given the playbook, right, or the tools to even
mm,
express those kinds of things, and we
Mm.
don't know it until we're into those interactions, right? And somebody has set us off because we'll look
Triggered
at that.
us.
Yeah, trigger us right there. Oh well, he think he know everything, you know. Oh, and you know, whoa, time out. You know, it
That's
sounded
exactly
like
how
you
it
wanted
goes.
help. She just wanted to help you, or he just wanted to help you.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
because you didn't let them know, hey, you know what? I just need to express myself. But again,
Mm,
in our society, this is a space where black people have not been given the freedom,
Yeah.
especially black women. Because if y'all talk too much, right, then all of a sudden you get the angry black woman trope, right? And so,
mm-hmm.
That
you know,
part.
well, I'm not gonna close my mouth and be quiet. You don't have to. Nobody's asking you to be. Tell us how you feel, right? And
Yeah.
then it's on us to listen and take that in and act appropriately.
Yes.
But yeah, but you also have to tell, you have to express to people your style of listening. It's different styles of listening,
Yes.
you
Mm.
know, and people need to, and you need to be able to acknowledge styles, whether it's in business, whether it's relationship, even with your children, because you can't parent each of your children the same. Your
No.
children are two different people. They have different personalities.
Yes.
And so you
Mhm.
have to tap into how you need to communicate. And we do it so as parents. Oh, we can tap into how to communicate with our children because we know they're different. But when it comes to relationships between adults, where it's a parent and a parent, somehow we can't listen. Somehow we can't understand. Somehow we can't empathize.
The
Sometimes,
power
we don't
dynamic.
want to give our heart because we already locked and loaded, from a last conversation that we had, that
And it's
we
the
bringing
power
in this one.
dynamic, right? It's the power
Absolutely.
dynamic, and then it's the ability, the ego, right? All these things start to play a part versus just the vulnerability. And then sometimes even in that space of vulnerability, you get those stereotypes of, oh, he's soft, or oh,
Mm.
she's so sensitive. I get that a lot. A lot. I've gotten that a lot. Girl, you just so sensitive. I be like, I feel what I feel.
But why is that? But
So
why is
it's
that
just
a
like
bad thing, Vanna?
these
Why
you
is
get
that a bad thing? Why
I
is it a
agree.
bad thing to be
I think we should
sensitive?
be able to be able to
But also, why is it a bad thing to be strong? It's the connotation that we put on the back of that. It may not be what the person is feeling. So that's another introspection. Are you feeling that from a place that they haven't even said that from? How are you receiving that? It's okay to be we got to be sensitive. We got to help support these babies when they need that. You know what I'm saying? We got to have feminine energy. It's got to be balanced out. What's wrong with people saying or looking at our character traits and saying this is what we are. It's some times where I'm super sensitive, but it's some times where I'm a beast. So why pull the negative out when people are saying it to you? Maybe it's just a space you in, and you feeling super sensitive, and they didn't say it, and now you just with. But what if it's not what they're not saying it?
Well, I think that a lot of people tend to go with whatever works for them, right? If they have a desired outcome, they're going to behave in the manner that gets them the best results. I know a lot of people who say things like, "Man, I've never seen you upset or never seen you angry." I say, "Well, I haven't been in that, in that type of dynamic with you, so you haven't had to see that." But we always tend to go with what. So, if you are a person who's more often seen as being loud, right? You may be considered the strong person, right? But down inside, we don't really know how you're feeling. You're just carrying out a behavior that's going to get you, or that you believe is going to get you your desired result.
That's good.
Then, going back to this world we live in, everything is based around competition and conflict so much.
Yes.
To where you don't even have time. Like a lot of times, going back to being sensitive or vulnerable, that's seen as a weakness or something that's going to make you lose out on something or lose that competition. It takes a lot to be the bigger person.
And in competition, definitely in your relationships, me and my good girlfriend talk about that all the time, about feeling like that as spouses or as partners, or as it's a competition. It just feels like you go to work and you compete, and you come home and you compete. Like it's not a place of solitude that you can find anywhere. We are not opening ourselves up for just it's not a competition. We're just, let's find the balance, but it feels like that. And it just feels like, if you're trying to build yourself from something and do something that's different, people may not understand it. So then they feel like that they got to build, right beside you. Everybody got to be building together. So I don't want you to think that you're doing something more than me. But if everybody is building at the same time, who's the cushion?
That's let me I want to highlight this real thing, this thing, and we're gonna keep going real quick. But Michelle Obama had a thing on the show. I forgot the name of it. And she talked about that space where, because I know people are saying, 50-50, 100-100. And she was like, no, it's not going to be that. There's going to be times where it's 60-40, 70-30, and 80-20 or whatever. And she's like, it's not going to always be that 50-50 dynamic or that 100-100, because sometimes you ain't at your 100. You ain't gonna always be at 100. And it's all like, that's where you go back to saying, like, wherever I am, being able to love me and accept me for that space.
Right.
Because it's not going to always. If you got a job today, we're thinking about real world life, right? If your job is making, you making the money to feed the family, and it closes, and I got to get out here and grind to go make up that money, that don't make you less of a man. That don't make me more of a woman. Like, it don't make me have your pants on. It's literally like, no, I'm just covering and doing what we need to do so we, the units, could continue moving. And I think if we can keep that perspective, not only in our relationships as wife and husband, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want to call it, but even in the unity of blackness, if we can say, I might have to cover this load for 70% of the time right now because 30% someone else got that. Okay, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And hopefully I can take this hat off and be able to pass the baton, because that's what we ain't doing either, right?
Come on, talk about it.
That older generation ain't trying to give up. They like this. And if we can be like, well, once that's you coming up, you moving up, I can put some more percentage on you and give you 50, and I'll take 50, or I can give you 60 and I'll take 40, and I can sit down and rest and be okay with that. That's how we need to move. And I think we're not moving that way. We're not. I don't know.
Everybody for the crown. Everybody wants to wear the crown.
Everybody wants
nobody wants to give it up. And as long as I have it, I'm going to hold it as long as I can, right? And
be ineffective holding it, but I'm just going to hold it.
Come on, sis.
Absolutely. And I can't give it away, because then I lose, right? If I give it away, then I lose.
Then I lose. Yep.
Because the competition is so embedded in our psyche we can't get past it. We can't get over it.
Whew.
Because we don't know what legacy means.
Mm.
We look at legacy and we think legacy is things and stuff.
Mm.
Because so many other cultures pass legacies on that we will probably never have because those things were stolen from us. We don't understand what we do have as a legacy that we can pass on the batons. You know, some family be like, I ain't gonna get that recipe up. I'm gonna be the only one. I'm gonna be that only one that show up at every reunion, and I'm gonna make it, and I ain't gonna give it to nobody, and it's gonna die with me. You know what I'm saying? But that might be the legacy for your family. That might be the $1 million recipe that get your grandchildren
Come on, sis.
to make this money that build a
Well,
dynasty in your name.
Come
and,
on, sis.
but you know how we do. Before we show up, we ask who over there cooking.
We do.
That recipe gone, right? The next generation ain't even gonna come together, right?
They not even got. That's true, but that
Right.
why though?
Right?
It,
You know what I'm saying? The
it is
greens
true.
ain't right. We ain't showing up. If they
But
don't
why
show up,
though? But why we not showing up? Because that goes back to that trauma.
And it comes back what they have seen us, because I am definitely gonna raise my hand. When I was younger and raising children, if you would ask my children today, they'd be like, "Oh, my mama, you know, this, and that." Because I was just in that mindset. I was in a, fight or flight. I just gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah.
But as my oldest child and my youngest child, they got different parts of me. Because he was on the tail end and we weren't doing all of the scrimping and pinching and trying to pull it together just to survive.
Yeah.
And so it shows up differently for the children.
Yeah.
And I've had to go back and have those conversations with my children to say what it was, and also to apologize, because in that space I was not thinking. I was just surviving, and it's still wrong. And now you feel away, and I can't act like you don't feel away, because
Come on,
you do. So you have to go back and you have to apologize, because that is going to be your legacy. No, we can leave legacies of healing. We can leave legacies of purpose. We can leave legacies that if the stock market closed today, you ain't at a loss.
Yes. Come on.
But we look at other things as more important. Community is a legacy. It is a legacy. This podcast is creating a legacy right now. You know what I'm saying? But we determine legacy on the successes of other people. So we don't see ourselves as valuable, and what we're doing is valuable. What we're doing is valuable. You, Don, sitting up here, giving us wisdom.
Yes.
As a Black man that's supporting his family, with a wife, and this is a legacy. Because what you say, I ain't see nobody sitting on this type of platform that I could take this type of knowledge from.
Come on.
So you got to be in the moment, and you got to know what it looks like, and you got to internalize it. And when you see this young man, because don't nobody want to be involved with nobody's kids no more. I ain't my kid, ain't my problem. But when they break in your house, it's your problem.
It's your problem. Then you mad. So
nobody need to do something. But you
what
had an opportunity to do
it. Goes back to self. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And that kind of ties into, me mentioning earlier, me in my early years of marriage, trying to fill in the gaps that I didn't have in my own life, and even raising my own kids. I carry that on in the community also, right? Because I know that there were not many examples for me. So when I see younger, hold on, y'all hit me in the heart right now.
Come on, it's okay. I love it.
Yes. I make sure that I take time and spend and invest, and pour into them. Because again, I want to be everything that I didn't have when I was growing up. So we're talking about, like, that's the legacy that I want to leave. Like, I didn't have it for you, right? And now I always tell them, now you go and hip somebody else, right?
That's
and tell
it.
them to hip somebody else, right? And tell them to hip somebody else. So that way we can fix probably not all of these problems, but we can attack a lot of them. You know what I'm saying?
But it's not our job to fix, but it's our job to drop seeds. Somebody, and I will bring it back. Somebody got to drop the seed. Somebody got to, bury it. Somebody got to water it. That's Bible principle. You go and you drop the seeds and you let God water it. But don't be the one that says, it's such a lack, but you never put your finger to the plow to work. That's an issue for me. If it's a lack and you see it, and if it's so important to you, then you're the one supposed to be doing that thing. If it's overwhelming to you, you're the one that's supposed to be putting your hand to the plow to help manage that thing.
Absolutely.
That was the one thing about me becoming a doula. I was doing it in my family anyway. And one of my other girlfriends was like, Sharice, you've been doing this in your family forever and a day. I didn't know what the term was, but I was doing it. And so she was like, you need to go in and put that in the community. I know you want to do this. I know you said your goal is this, but this is where this is the space that I see you having the most impact. And even going to work stop working for myself and work in the community. I had that conversation with my pastor. Ain't nobody going to be able to do what you do in this community but you. Everybody else going to do what they do. You need to have something bigger than just the stuff that's covered under your address. Move and do something bigger. And that's what moved me, because I wasn't trying to do nothing for nobody else at that particular space. I was tired of doing stuff for other people. I was worn out. But I had got weary in my well-doing. I'll say that.
Yeah, come on now.
Come on, right. You can.
One of my girlfriends came along, was like, nah, and she gave me a perspective that I probably wouldn't have took from anybody else. She was bold enough to pour into me. And other people had probably said it, but I wasn't in the right place to receive it. And then it goes back to our conversation. You got to have some introspective. You got to be able to receive it when it comes your way.
That part.
So you can heal, so you can show others the steps to try to get to healing as well.
Come on. You got to be open. Open. Just receive. And get these seeds, because I'm with you on that. When we show up, when I even show up in this space, I get that fix of like, I want to just fix this problem, and it's like you can't fix it alone. First of all, you can't do it alone.
Yes.
And secondly, I can only drop seeds, and it's the work, because it goes back. The work is up to you.
The work.
So it's self. It's the relationship dynamic of Black women and Black men. It starts with self. We have to acknowledge ourselves. This is what I'm getting out of this conversation. It starts with ourselves. It starts with communication, compassion, empathy, and just being open.
Yeah.
And love, because love covers all of those things.
Yeah.
Love makes you decrease, so everybody else around you can increase and you can see them. And people think of love, they just think of romantic love. No, love is sacrifice, baby. Love is sacrificing what you want for the betterment of the people that's involved.
I heard somebody say that love is the fuel that moves you to the action. Right?
Come on.
Love ain't the funny feeling. A lot of times the funny feelings that you have really is based in fear, right? Across something that you like, and you don't want to lose it. Okay, so then you get desperate, right? But if you love that thing, you'll do the work that's necessary for you to maintain it. And that's kind of where that comes from. And speaking, touching on something that you mentioned just a moment ago, Sharice, about talking about putting your hand to the plow where you see things are missing, right? I think conversations like this are a big part of that. And thank you, Vanna, for inviting me here, right? This day is really blessed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
As the preacher would say. But, as far as the fractures in the dynamic in our community, right? The unity between the Black man and the Black woman, right? We got to get to a place to where we can stop pointing fingers at each other, right? And figure out what we're going to do. Like, what am I going to do, me, Donald Looney, as a Black man, to improve the relations with my sisters and vice versa. For me, I can say a lot of that comes from unlearning a lot of the things that I learned, because a lot of the culture for Black men is rooted in misogyny, homophobia, things of that nature, right? We gotta
speak on it,
right? We gotta unlearn a lot of those things. Okay.
Yes.
before we can even really reach out and have those healthy kind of relationships with Black women.
Yeah.
You know, because in a lot of other cultures, those things that cause the friction between us are acceptable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? That misogynistic, wanting to be so domineering and those things
Yes.
are
Mm-hmm.
acceptable in other cultures. That's why some of those are easier fits than they
Mm-hmm.
are here with us. Right?
Because
But how?
they grew up with it. It was indoctrinated. It moved from just like racism and the issues with that moved from generation to generation. It moves from generation. You taught your daughters. You educated your son, and
Yeah,
that's why the term docile that some people throw out. Oh, they're just docile and this and that. No, they move their cultural values from
Yeah.
one generation to the next. And
right.
Mm-hmm.
that's how it showed up. And
Yep.
that's why it's different for us because we didn't have those cultural values that we moved from generation to generation.
Nope.
So you can see it as well, they're more pleasing, they're more accommodating
Yeah.
because that has been given to them.
Well, the values were imposed upon us. They just took our legs and feet away, so we couldn't walk in them.
Ooh,
Right?
ooh.
Took
Ooh.
everything away from us. Right? They made it so Black men can't get jobs. We in jail. We can't be in.
Mm.
So how can we lead a family?
Come on,
Right?
Yes.
bro. Come on.
Come on.
Go out and do all those things on their own. So how can they be in a position to receive from somebody who wants to provide? They get that
Mm.
attitude like, I don't need you. I'm
Mm.
INDEPEND. And what I'm saying is like we are a couple generations behind all the other cultures, especially when you're speaking of African Americans, right? Or Black
Yes. Yes.
Americans.
Black.
We are
Yes.
generations behind because like I said, all of those rules are imposed. That's the way the society works, right? That's why we always feel so disenfranchised or disjointed because
Yeah.
we were never allowed the opportunity to even walk in the rules that this society has set forth for us, right? And so now
Hmm.
that's why I said earlier, I think we're just now getting to a place to where we're starting to experience marriages that are lasting, right?
Mm.
Families that aren't broken,
And on
co-parenting and things of that nature.
and I want to say in those marriages that's on some solid foundation too,
Mm-hmm.
where you can have these conversations because again, I'm not saying I don't know again, from my view, I don't know what my grandparents talked about, but again, they were
Mm-hmm.
in my grandma was in the basement, my granddaddy had a room upstairs.
Right.
I didn't never really see them conversation talking
Mm-hmm.
amongst each other. So I don't know if like you said if that was happening, but in my mind it was like they just maintain it. They just live it. They're
Right.
it's not for me to sit and have a conversation with my husband or my mate because do we need to conversate? I
But that's from your perspective as
perspective.
a child and a young person.
As
And
a
see, that
child.
sometimes we don't get that. The
So
stuff
that's
that
what
we were dealing with is from a perspective of a child and non-adult.
so
And we
that's what I mean
bring
when I
those
say
things over.
communication. What you
Yes,
said, like having the conversations with your children,
you do. You
talking
have
to
to
them,
have them.
having these platforms where people can see, like, oh, well, that was probably something going on there. Now I can piece it together because if you said where does the change is going to come from? Me, it is the children, the
Mm-hmm.
generations. So how do we
Absolutely.
implant? For me too, like laying this out is a foundation for my girls to go back and say, oh wow, this is what my mama in the community talked about. These are the
Yes.
things that they experienced. This is where they were. This is why they were doing what they were doing. I don't have that for other than the books that some people wrote because we ain't gonna say we wrote all them books, right? The books. Come on now, who teaches our history?
Yeah.
Right? Who teaches
Yeah.
our history? Who's
Yeah.
teaching our kids our history? I don't know.
Right.
Other than Mississippi, I didn't really had a conversation with my elders and my family, and they're dying off. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying, where are we getting the
Yeah,
back end, the truth from? Where are we
Yeah.
getting that from? If we're not having the dialogue amongst our youth and our young, and that goes back to passing the baton and preparing them, even
Yeah.
if we know it's trauma field. I'm gonna tell my girls they're gonna see what mama experienced.
Baby, because I cannot stand. I do not. I tell my husband I hate family secrets. I loathe them. When I tell you they are the vein of my existence, and whenever I come up on one, whether it's about me, mine, ours, and everything, I'm gonna tell it because I will not be the holder
I'm with
of
you.
family secrets. You
I'm,
know what I'm saying? Because it has damaged enough of
it has
us.
damaged
It
enough
has
of
damaged
us.
enough of us.
It
So
has.
why would you want to pass that on to your children?
Come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm going to say it all. And if you get angry, I'm going to say it the next time too. Because we need to be freeing people up. We need to stop holding our children in bondage to something that we were held in bondage to. Why are we doing that? Is that love?
No.
Is it love? We all ain't gonna look good some of the time. Sometimes we just gonna look like exactly who we are, outside the makeup, outside the this, outside to that. They need to see what real things look like. So when they are dating and when they are building, they'll know how to spot and be like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna keep on moving. But you stay blessed now. They gotta see it. They gotta know.
Whew. And I think that's the dynamic too within our relationships as Black. If we want our kids to do differently, we have to do differently. So, like you said, how can I show up and now support Black men? And that's why, again, shout out to you, Don, for coming on the space, because I am very intentional about bringing Black men to these conversations, because y'all, there's gonna be a young Black boy who's gonna see you on here talking about your experience and be like, oh, I can talk. I can be able to be open. And you were finna get emotional. I was like, yes, please, because they can see Black men be emotional.
Vanna, come on.
It's okay. It's okay for you to get choked up and feel some type of way, to have a feeling and express that you're feeling that. That's how we're going to change our dynamic in our communities, in our generations, if we start really doing those things and being open to that space. So I really truly believe that. And I know it's not going to happen overnight. I know.
And one thing I do want to point out is I'm not sure where your target demographic is, or who your what age group listens to you the most. But also keep in mind that this is coming from my 45-year-old brain, right? So,
it takes time.
Right. I lived through the 80s and the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Like, I went through all of this, right? And a lot of this I've had to learn. And these were not easy lessons to come across. Sometimes looking in the mirror at me, and determining, how I was going to make these changes. And I mean, this was not easy to do. It wasn't. Speaking of emotion, sometimes I get emotional just thinking about it, because sometimes I just don't know. And if I can for a moment, like this is, I feel like often that my very life is proof that there is a God, because there's no other way I can explain.
Don't make me run, Don. Don't make me tear up this little office I got. Don't do it.
And got to the place that I am now. You know what I mean? Because if you pick one of those negative stereotypical statistics that fit a young Black male that was born, late 70s, early 80s, I probably fit all of them, right? And like I just, it's amazing, So I don't want to make it sound like I'm speaking, sitting high and looking low.
That part, I feel you.
Yes. As the youngsters would say, I got it out the mud. You know what I'm saying?
Come on now.
Yes, Lord.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still coming through and learning how to, to cope and deal with all of these things. And so as I learn this stuff, I'm just trying to pass it on to the next one. Okay.
Yes. And that's what it's all about. No one is perfect. Because I've come up like that too. I come in that space of like, I've been through things. I'm just still learning. I ain't got it all. But I'm just trying to shed light that there's another way.
Honey, we're gonna learn every day until we're not here anymore. Learning never stops.
Learning, you ain't growing.
Learning never stops.
It does not.
Even now, even at 52, finna be 53. Like I said, I saw that book online that I talked about, and I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that. And then my hand, my finger hit that button, because you need to learn.
Yeah.
You need to know. Maybe for this last 30 years of your marriage was terrible, or it could have been improved in so many ways, but you weren't at the mindset then that you want to know. Were you at the mindset that you want to know and want to know some more? So go ahead and do it. Because one thing about it is, I always have young women, for whatever reason, always, even when my children were in school, their friends, everybody always came. Everybody always wanted to sit at the table. They was always sending. My son's friends, he would send them my way. And it was nothing to do with me. I think it was just me being open and honest and saying, yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. And they want some honesty, and they want to hear it simplistically. And if you see a need, can you meet my need first before you start talking about all of this other pie in the sky stuff? because action speaks louder than words. And
Yeah.
so it's always been my
All that
journey
speaks
to
louder than
support
words.
young women.
Yes.
And so if it's your turn, if they tap you, it's your turn.
And I
Yeah.
just want to say, I acknowledge what you said, and that's why I appreciate that, because right there, people need to know that even whatever space you're in, that there is a way out. Because, like you said, you got it out the mud. You was probably out here doing what you was
Mm,
doing, hustling or whatever it was. I ain't saying you did it, but people need to know that there is a way out, and that is
mm,
only sometimes temporary. Especially if you want to strive, and goes back to self. If you are open and you ready to strive and ready to really see a different way, and there's spaces and there's people, and that's what I'm trying to provide here in this space, is that there's spaces and places that you can get to the resources and support that you need to get to the outer side where you
absolutely.
want to be. Where you want to be, and hopefully then that will trickle on to our community, because we can't ask people to show up. And now this is I say this all the time: individuals self whole, they have to be whole, and then the community will be whole. We can't keep asking people to come and they traumatized, because that's what we have right now in our community.
Yeah.
People showing up traumatized, all that is leaking over in community, and it's becoming culture. They're not, they're dealing with things, and they're depleted, they're tired, they're struggling. There's a lot that's going on, and if we don't fix people individually, then the community
Hmm.
doesn't get fixed. And
Yeah.
so it's like we have to do that work, and you can no matter how hard it is, and it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be, you're not going to turn out perfect. Nobody's perfect, but we're saying you can do it, and this is what it looks like when you start to do the work. And we're not saying it's easy, because I'm hear you say that too, like every day is this just it's hard, but it's worth it, right?
It's
Yes,
worth
it
it.
is.
It's
It's
worth
worth.
it. It's
It's
worth
worth
it.
it. Yeah,
It's
it's
definitely
absolutely.
worth it.
And so I think, all in all, we have to extend each other a lot more grace than what we've been doing.
That
Mm.
one, come on,
We
come
have
on.
to be a lot more patient with one another, because everybody got something, right? Everybody got
Everybody.
Everybody.
somewhere, okay? And so, we mentioned having that empathy, compassion. We just got to be a lot more patient with each other, and that
Mm,
can bridge a lot of these gaps and fix a lot of these fractures within our community.
yes, I agree. I agree, y'all. I agree. Woo! Shout out to both of y'all.
Uh,
Shout out to both of
hey, you
y'all.
put this together, okay? Don't just shout us out. Pat yourself on the back too, okay? Because you put this together.
Because she never does. She never. That's why I love her. She is grace personified. I do. That's what I love about her. And we had talked a little bit about. I was like, because I asked her. I was like, because I had a conversation with my husband. Like, girl, why you pull me for this?
Look at you.
Podcast today and this and that. She said, because I'm going out in the community. I have experts here and there, but you experts in your life, so you got something to offer.
Yes.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
We all experts in our life and we got something to offer.
The best,
It
the expert to me is lived experience.
is.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
If you ain't lived it or you ain't had no experience, how you gonna tell me? And then, like what you said,
Mm,
relatable. It gotta be relatable. That's why every messenger ain't fitting every space.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're not relatable to that person's life and situation, how do you think they're going to take that from you? Because it's like it
Mm,
ain't coming off real. I say real and raw for a reason. It don't come off real. So you have to have the experience for me to want to even acknowledge or look and be like, okay, let me see what that
mm,
means.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why, and yes, y'all have y'all experts, and you a black man, Don, and Sharice, you a black woman.
Yeah.
There you
I think
go.
I
That's
know. Yeah.
yeah.
I think I
and
know a little bit about it. Just a little bit.
yeah, I'm sure 45 years. you know,
Yeah.
You look,
know,
you're a rare commodity.
exactly.
Okay.
You are woo. Come on. As we
Right.
go back to what I just said earlier, a lady lost her son.
Yeah.
So you are black men are. Okay, we seeing it every day,
Yeah.
y'all. Black
Yeah.
women too. Come on, we
Yeah.
seeing it in our community every day. We
Yeah.
are being that growth and that wisdom and that lifespan is shortening. It's not
Mm,
expanding. We ain't living longer.
Yeah.
And you
mm,
said, who is everybody? Old,
everybody.
young. I want all of them to. I want them all on
Everybody.
this platform because we all got to speak and we all got a story and we all got an experience because we need to hear this. And I was tired of people telling our stories and our experiences.
Come on. Oh,
I was
Don't
tired of
give
people
me.
telling me.
Mm-mm,
So that's why
mm-mm,
I was like, okay, we got to do something
mm.
different.
Well,
We
see,
have to
no, and
shift.
that's good because a lot of stuff like this, I usually only share with family members, friends,
Yeah.
some kids that I mentor. I really don't get a chance to share it broad like this, or on any kind of platform. And more
Yes.
often than not, I really don't feel comfortable sharing it on a platform because everybody's not ready.
Everybody ain't tapped in. I feel it.
Everybody ain't tapped in,
Everybody ain't
sis.
tapped in.
Yeah, but when it was when the opportunity was brought to me, I'm gonna just say, the name kind of got me. I was like, oh yeah, I'll show up there. It'll be my honor to show up there and talk good talks.
I was intentional about that as well. I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
I was very intentional about that as well. Because that's frowned upon. That space sometimes, and I'm like, it's the most dopest gems coming out the hood. Okay,
Exactly.
the dopest
Exactly.
gems coming out the hood. Okay,
Center
don't
stage.
and not
Even
see.
with the HBCUs being in the spotlight.
Yes,
Baby, those have been around hundreds, like over hundreds of years, like 100+ years. Some
yes,
of these been there, but hey, when the diamond mines, close down and then they got to go and dig someplace else, and then they come to a space that was created because there was no other space. Then
yes.
all of a sudden,
And
all
all of a
eyes on
sudden,
me.
all eyes.
So
What
it
you?
is what it is. It
Yep.
is
What you?
what it is. It takes a moment, but when it's time to do what it needs to do, it's going to do what it's going to do. You just have to be open.
Be
You just
open.
have to be open when it's time.
If you take anything else from this space today, y'all, I hope y'all take that. Be open. Black men, black women, be open. Be open to love. Be
Truly.
open to love. Truly open to love.
Yeah.
Um, yes. That's how we gonna end it on that note, y'all. Woo, I want you all to give y'all last spiel if you can. Any advice, suggestions, any comments that you all want to shoot out there, and if you want people to reach you, if you would like provide the space where they can reach you at. I'll let Miss Sharice go first. So any advice, suggestions to
You know what? I am full. There's nothing that I need to add or take away. I want to provide my opportunities to Don because we do speak and we do speak loudly, and sometimes we don't listen. So I'm going to throw it over to Don.
oh, that's so nice of you. So I really don't have much. I just say you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Don Looney. I'm on Instagram, the Telecom Don. Um, I'm working on a couple things. A lot of stuff coming down the pipe. Very busy, active. Like I said, I'm a unionist and an activist, so it's a lot going on. Just hit me up on social media. We can talk about it. Thank you again, Vanna, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Anytime you need me to come back and say the word, I'll be here. All right.
well,
And
thank you.
yeah, that's all I got.
Well, shout out to everybody that has tapped in. We got so many comments. So I would ask you all to please go back and look at those comments on
Okay.
Facebook and YouTube because people were commenting. Appreciate everybody that tapped in. I hope y'all share this. If you watch it later, please still feel free to make some comments and chime in on this conversation. Another one of the dope needed conversations. And we gonna continue this month, it's not only Black History Month, it's also Valentine's Day on February 14th. But I know, right? And don't forget about oh god, I missed it last time. Black Love, I think is what it's called. Black Love Day. I might be hiding it, and that's the day after Valentine's Day, and that's all about loving the people in the Black community. Period. It ain't just for like again the dynamic of Black couples and things like that. So I will definitely be trying to celebrate
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna check that out. I had no idea that even
Black
existed.
Love Day, if I'm
Uh,
not mistaken. We talked about it last year, and my head is blanking right now. But I would definitely make sure I put that out there, and we gonna shout it out on the Hood Talks podcast because we all
Okay.
about what we just talking about. But again, we're gonna bring more conversations that we've had previously about this subject. Back on our Facebook and bring them back up so people can see them, tapping into them this month. We got a show, I believe, on the 6th and the 16th. So tap in. Just if you ain't following or subscribe to our YouTube channel or Facebook, we're also on Instagram. Please do the Hood Talks podcast. Check us out, follow us. Yeah, and I think for me, that's pretty much all I got as well. Next month, same time, first Saturday of the month, 12 o'clock. This conversation is a little personal to me. We're talking about IEPs. Yes,
Oh wow.
navigating an IEP.
That's good. That's good. That's well needed.
Girl,
That's
that
well. I dealt with that.
girl,
Yes.
that's a whole other
Mm.
ball game. But we gotta be bringing that conversation. We got some people that has experience in that one. We do have some experts because I do want to really get people tapped in on what resources they can get and help they can get with assisting them through that space because it's a hard space to navigate. And we in our community definitely I think it goes unaddressed too
Yes.
often. So that's what we talking next month, first Saturday, and we're gonna keep bringing them until June, y'all. Keep bringing these community conversations every first Saturday at noon. So again, make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. And on that note, you all, we out. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow us on all our social medias. And you can find